Hello, and welcome to the M.O.W. channel. Today, we're going to talk about Ted Bundy, the notorious serial killer who, starting in the 1970s, used his charm and good looks to lure and murder numerous women. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Alright, let's dive into today's story. Ted Bundy's story begins in the early 1970s, in Seattle, a peaceful, growing college town in the Pacific Northwest. Back then, he looked like the perfect symbol of the American dream. He was handsome, well-dressed, calm, articulate, and majoring in psychology at the University of Washington. He even worked on the campaign of a rising local politician, building a resume that made him seem like a future leader. People around him remembered Bundy as smart, charming, and full of promise. Women especially were drawn to his charisma and his polite, thoughtful personality. This spotless Ted image was a mask one he crafted over years. Behind it hid dark, destructive impulses he kept completely out of sight. Starting in early 1974, young college women in Washington and Oregon began disappearing one after another. At first, the cases looked random and unrelated, so police assumed they were runaways or accidents. The victims were usually attractive women in their early 20s, often with long hair, and nothing in their lives suggested they were in danger. There were no signs of a struggle, no clear witnesses, and nothing that tied the cases together. As more women vanished, public fear grew. Local newspapers splashed headlines about the mysterious disappearances, feeding the sense that something terrifying was happening. By that time, Bundy had already begun hunting. His method wasn't just brute force, he relied on manipulation and performance. He faked police credentials, wore slings or casts, and pretended he needed help to trigger women's sympathy. Sometimes he'd ask for help loading a boat into his car trunk. Other times he'd claim his car had broken down, and he needed a ride to the station. His looks and convincing act lowered their guard. The moment they stepped close enough, Bundy showed who he really was. He used his Volkswagen Beetle as a mobile trap. It looked ordinary, but he had modified it, removing the passenger seat, disabling door handles, anything that would keep victims from escaping. After the attacks, he dumped their bodies in remote, wooded areas and sometimes mutilated them, making identification nearly impossible. His methods exploited the weaknesses of the era. In the early 70s, DNA testing didn't exist, and law enforcement agencies in different states didn't share information efficiently. A killer like Bundy, who traveled across state lines, was incredibly hard to track. Then came July 1974. 4 young women disappeared on the same day from Lake Sammamish State Park near Seattle. The mass disappearance shocked the entire region. Police launched a massive search operation but found nothing. After that, investigators finally admitted they were dealing with a serial killer and formed a special task force. Still, the only clue they had was a vague witness report about a good-looking young man driving a Volkswagen Beetle. Meanwhile, Bundy was already fully addicted to the control and thrill he felt from killing. He kept living a perfectly normal daily life, dating his girlfriend, attending classes, even watching news reports about the missing women without blinking. This double life was one of the first clear signs that Bundy wasn't just a criminal, he was a psychopath with an extreme form of antisocial personality. After the string of disappearances in Seattle, Ted Bundy suddenly moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, in late 1974. The move showed just how calculated and cold-blooded he really was. As investigators in Washington started to close in, Bundy simply decided to wipe the slate clean by heading to a new state and building a new identity. Enrolling in the University of Utah's law school, he slipped right back into the role of the hard-working law student, blending into the community with ease. Salt Lake City and later parts of Colorado became his new hunting grounds, and his crimes grew bolder and more frequent. Soon, Utah and Colorado reported disappearances and murders that looked eerily similar to the cases in Washington. The victims were again young women, often college students with long, dark hair, who vanished suddenly from public places. Detectives began to sense that these weren't isolated, local crimes, but the work of a serial killer crossing state lines. That realization shook law enforcement. Back then, police departments in different states largely worked on their own, sharing very little information. Bundy took full advantage of the system's blind spots. One major turning point came in the fall of 1974, in Utah. Carol DaRonch's attempted abduction became one of the key moments that would eventually lead to Bundy's arrest. DaRonch was in a mall parking lot when a clean-cut man claiming to be a police officer told her that someone had tried to break into her car and that she needed to come with him. Suspicious but unsure, she got into his car. Once inside, he suddenly tried to handcuff her. DaRonch fought back fiercely and managed to escape. She later gave the police an incredibly detailed description of both the man and his Volkswagen Beetle, details that would become crucial later on. Around the same time, in Aspen, Colorado, Karen Campbell disappeared after being lured away by a man who looked trustworthy. This case later became one of the key charges that helped secure Bundy's death sentence. By now Bundy was using both his law school training and his psychology background to dodge investigators. He analyzed questions, manipulated interviews, and tried to shape his alibis, so he always appeared one step ahead. His luck finally ran out in August 1975. A patrol officer on night duty pulled over a suspicious-looking Volkswagen Beetle on the outskirts of Salt Lake City. The driver was Ted Bundy. He didn't have proper registration and seemed extremely nervous. The officer searched the car and found an ice pick, rope, a ski mask, handcuffs, and scraps of clothing that appeared to belong to victims. Even with all that, Bundy insisted he was innocent, claiming the items were just camping supplies. That traffic stop and the evidence inside the car became the missing link that tied together the mysterious disappearances across several states. Investigators compared the items in Bundy's car with Carol DeRonch's description and found a clear match. Bundy was charged in Utah with the attempted kidnapping of DeRonch, marking the beginning of the end for him. His arrest shocked the country. The gap between the image of an elite law student and the reality of a brutal serial killer left the public stunned. Only then did investigators finally grasp the full scope of his crimes. Bundy had been operating across Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Colorado, preying on women while living a perfectly normal public life. State agencies started working together more closely, realizing that without cooperation, someone like Bundy could operate indefinitely. After being convicted in Utah for the attempted kidnapping of Carol DeRonch, Ted Bundy was transferred to Colorado to await trial for the murder of Karen Campbell. This period marked one of the most unpredictable and tense chapters in the Bundy story. On the surface, he was just another inmate preparing for trial, but inside, his mind was already plotting ways to escape. His arrogance didn't fade behind bars. He truly believed his intelligence and legal knowledge could outsmart any set of steel bars. In June 1977, while awaiting trial in Aspen, Colorado, Bundy exploited special access he had been granted to the courthouse library to review evidence. Taking advantage of a lapse in supervision, he jumped out of a window and made his first escape. This bold move showed just how dangerous and unpredictable Bundy could be, even while in custody. Though his freedom lasted only a few days, it gave him immense confidence and served as a shocking warning to law enforcement. Local police and the FBI faced harsh criticism, and recapturing Bundy made national headlines, spreading fear across the public. Bundy wasted no time planning a second escape. He was moved to the Garrison Jail in Colorado, a facility with relatively lax security. Over the next few months, he secretly worked on the ceiling of his cell, using items like meal trays and razor blades to create an escape route. He even stacked blankets and books to make it look like he was asleep. On the night of December 30, 1977, Bundy climbed through the hole in the ceiling, made his way to a vent in the prison wall, and slipped outside. Braving freezing temperatures, he embarked on a bold escape route all the way to Tallahassee, Florida. Crossing thousands of miles, Bundy's journey showed just how single-minded and relentless he was in pursuing his criminal impulses. Bundy's second escape sparked nationwide fear and outrage. Already wanted in multiple states for disappearances and murders, his freedom suggested that new victims were inevitable, and that dread quickly became reality. Less than a month after arriving in Tallahassee, Bundy carried out the most violent and shocking crime of his criminal career. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, he broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. He brutally attacked 4 sleeping female students with a blunt instrument, killing 2 of them. The crime was marked by extreme violence and boldness. Bundy assaulted multiple victims in a single building, signaling the horrifying peak of his brutality. The attack on a peaceful campus shocked the nation, dominating news headlines and igniting widespread public outrage. Just days later, Bundy abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach from a nearby area, raping and murdering her. This horrifying crime against a child highlighted just how far Bundy's moral decay and unstoppable murderous impulses had gone. Though still on the run, Bundy managed to conceal his identity and continue evading capture in Florida. His crimes had now spread from the western United States to the southeast, putting unprecedented pressure on law enforcement. A serial killer roaming the country, preying on innocent people, marked one of the darkest chapters in U.S. law enforcement history. In February 1978, Ted Bundy's time on the run finally came to an end when he was arrested in Pensacola, Florida, on a vehicle theft charge. His capture brought a wave of relief across the country, But the real battle was just beginning in the courtroom. Bundy was charged with two horrific crimes: the murders at the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University and the killing of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. These trials would become the dramatic and decisive climax of the Bundy saga. Bundy's trial in Miami drew unprecedented media attention. For the first time in U.S. history, much of the trial was filmed and broadcast nationwide, marking a turning point in how trials were covered. The courtroom was packed every day with reporters and members of the public, and Bundy saw it as a stage he could control. He once again chose to represent himself, a bold strategy that allowed him to flaunt his law school knowledge and try to present himself as an intelligent man wrongly accused. In court, Bundy dressed sharply in a suit and spoke calmly and logically during questioning and cross-examinations. He acted like a competent attorney, but his cold, almost mocking questions directed at the victims' families revealed the deep cruelty and arrogance lurking beneath his surface. When surviving victims were forced to testify, Bundy personally cross-examined them, putting them through renewed emotional trauma. The trial became more than a legal battle, it was a psychological war, with Bundy trying to manipulate the courtroom itself. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence and testimony. One piece that would prove decisive was the bite mark found on one of the Chi Omega victims. The mark, on her buttocks, was a crucial clue in identifying the killer. Forensic dental experts compared Bundy's teeth to the bite mark and testified that the alignment of his teeth matched perfectly. They declared with confidence that no one else could have left that mark. This bite mark evidence became a landmark moment in forensic science, demonstrating how emerging techniques could catch a serial killer. In the pre-DNA era, such evidence carried as much weight as fingerprints or blood typing. Bundy denied ever leaving the bite marks, questioning the reliability of the evidence, but scientific proof left his self-defense powerless. Another critical part of the trial was the Kimberly Leach case. The murder of a 12-year-old girl shocked both the jury and the public. While the evidence wasn't as direct as in the Chi Omega case, circumstantial evidence, witness testimony, murder tools, and hair from the girl found in Bundy's car was more than enough. The prosecution stressed how brutally Bundy continued to kill after escaping, highlighting the extreme danger he posed to society. In July 1979, after months of intense legal battles, the jury found Bundy guilty of the Chi Omega murders. The courtroom erupted in tension, cheers, and gasps as the verdict was read. At sentencing, the judge handed down the death penalty for both murders, saying, "You were intelligent, capable of being a great lawyer, but you chose a different path. I sentence you to death for these two murders." The judge's words underscored how Bundy's intelligence had been twisted toward monstrous ends. Bundy tried to remain composed as the sentence was read, but his face betrayed flashes of shock and anger. The Florida trial stripped away his charming mask, exposing the monster beneath through hard evidence and victim testimony. After being sentenced to death in Florida, Ted Bundy was locked up on death row at Florida's Rayford prison. Throughout the 1980s, his life was largely defined by appeals and legal delays. His arrogance never faded. He saw himself as smart and persecuted, constantly searching for loopholes to save his own life. Bundy spent his days in prison poring over legal documents with his attorneys, using the complexity of appeals to continuously push back his execution date. He acted as if he were still a law student or a skilled lawyer, a psychological defense mechanism to avoid facing reality. During this time, he never showed genuine remorse for his crimes. At one point, he even tried to profit from his notoriety, attempting to turn his story into books or movies. By the late 1980s, things began to turn against him. All his major appeals had been rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court, and an execution date was set. Even news of his personal life, his marriage to longtime girlfriend Carol Ann Boone, and the birth of their daughter couldn't save him. As the date approached, Bundy played one last, cunning card. He offered to confess to unsolved murders. Desperate to delay his execution, he told investigators he could provide detailed information about unsolved killings in Washington, Utah, Colorado, and other western states. For law enforcement, this was a rare chance to close decades-old cases and bring closure to countless grieving families. Some investigators took him up on the offer and met him in prison. In the days leading up to his execution, Bundy began coldly recounting his crimes. He confessed to at least 30 murders, marking body dump sites on maps and describing the methods he used. His accounts detailed how he lured victims, mutilated bodies, and crossed state lines to commit his crimes. Even while giving these confessions, Bundy showed no remorse or empathy. He spoke about his murders almost academically, like a researcher, presenting findings, and often described them as addictions or uncontrollable impulses. In an attempt to dodge responsibility, his manipulative, psychopathic tendencies were on full display to the very end. He also tried to prolong his execution by slowly revealing information and giving interviews to the press. In the end, All of Bundy's legal maneuvers failed. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair at Rayford Prison. On that day, crowds of citizens gathered outside to witness and celebrate the enforcement of justice. His death marked the final chapter of a long and brutal series of murders, and brought long-awaited closure to the families of his victims across the country. Even after his death, the Ted Bundy case continued to have an impact. His crimes reshaped public awareness of serial killers and advanced forensic investigation techniques. Bundy's case taught the hard lesson that appearances can be deceiving, and that even the most charming individual can hide monstrous behavior. The FBI used his case to study the psychology and behavior of psychopaths, and his meticulously planned crimes contributed to the development of criminal profiling techniques. His case also prompted law enforcement agencies to create better systems for sharing unsolved case information across state lines. Bundy may have believed he could beat the courts, but ultimately, his story stands as one of the clearest examples of how evil can be defeated through scientific evidence and relentless investigation. That's it for today's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Tomorrow, we'll bring you another case filled with mystery. Thank you for watching.